to have Deja, Taylor, and Kaya here, and Mia. That's a
Yes.
that's at least half of our quota.
Mhm.
This is our last, well, no, last week of classes, and we're very excited to hear your verbal overview of your research. And I don't know, did any of you get just the email I sent later this afternoon? Maya?
I did.
Oh, good. Okay. Kaya, did you, or Taylor?
Yeah, I just read it.
Okay. All right. So for the mentors who are here, and we wanted to have our students share from their biographical essays and just to reflect on what they felt was the most outstanding, what were some of the most outstanding features of their subject, what was the most challenging aspect of doing the research. We wanted you to share the most helpful resources. And then finally, how did your essay contribute to your understanding of what it means to be a Lincoln Lion? Since we've had this wonderful experience of being with Lincoln alums, how does that make you feel? How does that change your sense of your own identity as a coming up Lincoln Lion? So who would like to start to talk about your essay?
I can go.
Okay, Mia, great. And we'll ask questions of you if you don't cover things we want to hear about. How's that? See how you think on your feet, like Oliver Franklin.
Sounds cool. So for the second essay, I did Thelma H. L. Hill. She's class of 1971. And I had the pleasure of speaking with her personally via Zoom, thanks to my mentor. And we had a pretty good interview. What can I say? So the most challenging part, it's not like she's not important, because she's very important Lincoln history wise, but I just felt like some of the information that I got, or some of the things that were in the special collections about her, were pretty like redundant, and it wasn't really much to go off of. It was only about I believe 3 or 5 files on her with her name in there. And that was kind of challenging for me, because I felt like there should be more, especially being that she was the General Alumni Association president. What I've been noticing overall is just a trend of individuals coming to Lincoln and honestly finding that spark that changes their entire life. I personally like her story, and she's still alive today. So that kind of gave me not hope, but more so like, you could still receive your flowers while you're here. And I hope that this essay gives credit to her, which is very much so due. Which is kind of why I kind of want it to be perfect. But again, I am a perfectionist with most of other things. So that's just on the list of things that I'm trying to perfect.
Let me see if I understand. Do you mean you want to make sure you're what is it exactly you're trying to perfect? And by the way, can we see your face? We really want it.
I'm so sorry. You guys can. However, I have a bonnet on.
Mm-hmm. Well, your picture is so beautiful. I can't imagine that a bonnet would ruin your face.
Thanks. Okay, so
thanks. That's really helpful, Mia. That's really helpful.
Okay, that's better.
Yeah, that's okay, good.
It's good.
Okay. I was gonna say
you didn't say much about who she was and what she did. Like, what were her achievements?
Yeah, so for one, she was the first female president of the National Alumni Association in Lincoln's history. She was also a part of like the second largest class of women, the second largest class that had women in it. So yeah, that's pretty much why she's famous, but she's been teaching like the city of Philadelphia for like over 40 plus years, and majority of her students came back to Lincoln.
Oh.
So not only like perfect example, Guy Sims, Sterling Sims's dad was her student.
Wow.
And he's famous, and I know his son. So she's contributing to Lincoln history in small ways, but like if you notice or follow the pattern, it's pretty like impactful.
You know, I haven't read your essay yet, but from what you're saying, you have a whole series of really cool topic sentences. And I hope that when we read your essay, you're going to have a topic sentence that's really a grabber, like she has trained generations of Lincoln students. Who are they? That's a fabulous paragraph, because people who read this essay, they're going to we'll index things like that. So people will go to read your essay to check up on other people. So those sorts of details are marvelous. You've made some great general statements. But keep talking. I just want to encourage you in that if you haven't done that already.
Actually, I didn't, because at first I thought including like other people's names besides parents would just deflect from the main reason of why we're writing the paper. But now that you say this makes me feel a lot better, because a lot of people might know who Guy Sims is. And I heard he was a very famous poet. So if they know who he is, then the connection to Thelma is a lot easier. I felt like it was like, I don't want to say like a gap, but when she told me that, it bridged all of it. It just all made sense to me. Like, it's not so far along like we think it is.
She was an English teacher? What was her subject?
Yeah, she was an English teacher.
So for her to have trained Guy Sims, he writes, among other things, a whole series of detective stories. He's got they're marvelous detective books.
Wow.
Yeah, urban detective novel is his genre. And so for her to have contributed to that is marvelous. You might even want to talk to Guy Sims and see if he has anything to say about her. Wouldn't that be great?
That's a really good idea, because I actually know him and I met him a few times. I'm going to see how I can get into contact with him. I'm not sure. I feel like my freshman year we were emailing or something. He was a part of something that I was a part of as well, and he had his email. But I will definitely look into that, because I think he might be able to give me not way more information, but more information about how she was as a teacher.
Yeah. Is she the one who told you about the different students that she had?
Yes.
So obviously that's a really important part of the way she sees herself, as a person who's invested in other people's lives, right?
Yeah, I thought it was like really sweet, because she didn't have any kids or have like her own personal family of her own, but she definitely considers her students who she's taught part of her family. And like you can really tell, like, she genuinely loves all the people that she's had in her classroom. Like, you could tell that she knows she's made a change in people's lives.
Is she originally from Philadelphia?
Yeah, she was born in South Philly.
Okay. And is this her way of paying it forward? How did she get to Lincoln, by the way?
So the story goes, she really wanted to attend Morgan State. However, her dad did not feel like it was a good idea or a good fit for her. But she did have a counselor at her high school who had been previously offered a job at Lincoln and knew about Lincoln University, but was unable to accept the job offer due to personal reasons. But she always remembered Lincoln University. So she mentioned it to Thelma as a high school senior, like literally ready about to graduate. And they sent in her application materials and she got accepted like 2-3 days later.
Okay. And so she went to Lincoln.
Tell him about the high school she went to.
Yeah, she went to Kensington High School, which was like an all girls, predominantly white high school.
And she talked about that, and you do write about this, it being the beginning of the effort to integrate Philadelphia schools. And-
Yeah.
Mhm.
Hmm.
And
That's an important part of the cultural context. That's very important.
So she was motivated to send other students from Philadelphia to Lincoln.
Thelma or her counselor?
No, Thelma.
Yes.
Okay.
I don't think she like necessarily made it her mission, like in comparison to the other person I'm writing about. Because I can tell that William Credit definitely wanted everyone who went to that school to come to Lincoln. I think just her nature made people want to go back to where she came from in a way. I think she inspired other people to just want to come to Lincoln, not necessarily like a make sure you come to Lincoln, I'm recruiting you type of deal.
And I saw her for the first time because I really didn't know her that well. She's a born teacher. Even when she was president of the AALU, she was still working and teaching in the Upward Bound program and served as a resident counselor just so that she could be closer with the students and help them. And she did this her, 20 some years.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
The Upward Bound program at Lincoln.
At Lincoln. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And taught in the summers.
Nice lady. I went back, saw her yearbook photo, everything.
Mm-hmm. She's a quiet, low-key person, so it's kind of hard to get that enthusiasm from her. But her commitment to Lincoln is certainly contagious.
Yeah, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
And you have information on her activities while she was a student at Lincoln?
Yeah. She was a part of the biology club, the Melvin B. Tolson Society, the Dormitory Hall Council. And then even after she graduated, the Alpha Chi National Honor Society invited her back to be inducted. Beta chapter.
I thought it was interesting too how she came to become the AALU president. You want to tell that story?
So from what she says, it seems like she wasn't really ever like interested in going that far with the Alumni Association. However, she was so bright and everyone was just like, you have to run, you have to run, you have to run, you have to run. So she was basically persuaded by other members of the association, older classes in the association, and she ended up running for vice president of her local chapter in Philadelphia, and she got it. And then she also ran for president and served 2 terms. After that, she went on the national level, ran against Dr. Lee, won, and was elected again for her 2nd term.
We forgot some at a time when the men in the
Oh, they
association
weren't happy about this, by
having
the
a
way.
woman.
They didn't want to see
Right.
that.
Right.
This is like early 80s. They weren't too feministic about her and her running.
Mm-hmm.
They weren't too enthusiastic about a whole lot of people back in those days.
Right.
They chased me out of a few meetings.
Oh my gosh.
She really seems to me she broke ground in several areas. The integration of her high school as a woman, the leadership of the Alumni Association. She's sort of a groundbreaker, a leader.
And quiet and unassuming, you would never know. Right.
Mhm. See, it sounds to me, Mia, that you have a really good take on who she was in a person. And if you can communicate that in your writing, you've done a brilliant job.
Mm-hmm.
It's really good. It's really good. And, if you want to add a few of those quotes, if there are people you can contact, like a quote from a student to support what you've done, would be lovely.
Okay.
Yeah, nice work. Great.
Thank you so much.
I've got a
Oh, you're not done
Question.
yet.
real
Oh.
quick, at least a juxtaposition, something that's interesting. Sister Adrienne Roan actually became chair of the Board of Trustees before we had our first woman president of the National Lincoln Alumni Association, right? That was in the 1970s. Yes? Yes.
Sharon,
Well,
did you say Sharon? I'm sorry.
no, chairperson of the Board of Trustees
Oh,
in the
okay, I'm
1970s.
sorry.
So she preceded in terms of prestige the presidency that you described, the first woman president in the 1980s. I find that kind of instructive. Sister Outerbridge can talk about that, unless I've got my dates mixed up, and I don't think I do.
Yeah, I think your timeline is off.
When did Roan was actually the president during the 1970s in the Board of Trustees, right?
No.
No?
That wouldn't have been until
I think so.
90s.
Maybe
Was it the 90s?
90s, I think.
No.
I mean, she might have graduated in the 70s, but when did she graduate, Carol? I mean, that 70s, that's just
No,
too early.
it's too early, right? It had to be the 90s because, I mean, I was
Right.
representing Lincoln
Yeah.
University.
Oh,
for
right, okay, that's
litigation.
right. Well, she graduated in 1976. Okay, I should know better
Yeah,
from my sister
Okay.
this paper, 1976.
yeah.
So then she made a mark as at the head of an organization or entity before
Mhm.
Sister Roan. Okay. Ignore what I said, Ms. Joseph.
It's okay. It is interesting. Maybe they were around the same time, now that I'm thinking. Do we have the time
Just-
when
When,
Thelma served?
Sister
Yeah.
Outerbridge should have her information.
Right.
Mia, it may be,
Sorry.
this may be a good opportunity to illustrate how women, made these major contributions to Lincoln. She would, there have been many others. I mean, we had the event was on Women's History Month, and the students were describing their experiences there and how they were groundbreakers. And so this is another domain because, the National Alumni Association was pretty cliquish up for a long time. And so, it shouldn't be a footnote that, she had to overcome male resistance in that area. And so that would be, a major factor to highlight in terms of, Lincoln's transition from, it's all male character or persona to the inclusion and contributions of women, Lincoln women to the university.
Point. Good point.
Very good point. Well, are we ready to move on? Deja, would you like to go next?
Yeah, I'll go. Let me pull up your email so I can see, what exactly. I don't want to get it wrong now. Let me pull up the email.
Don't forget to turn your camera on.
Okay, yeah, I got that.
There we go.
Okay. So you said, in your view, what was the most outstanding? I think the most outstanding part about Adrienne was her upbringing, her childhood, because she said she was a part of like the segregated South. She grew up in like Richmond, Virginia, and she lived through when they had decided to like desegregate schools. So she was a part of like a select few, I think she was like 20 students or something like that. And there was only 20 Black students in like an all white school. And she had to live through that. And because she had to live through that, that was what I guess influenced her decision to attend the HBCU, along with like her parents going to HBCU. But it was mostly that, and all the 19 other students who were a part of that group of Black students who were in the predominantly white institution they all wanted to go to HBCUs too because of how they were treated. That kind of stood out to me because you don't really hear too much about that, the history aspect of it anyway. And I would say the most challenging part of the research was actually getting the research, because it's not that much out there on her. She's a very private person, so it was kind of hard to find stuff on her. But I think if it was like a highs and lows type thing, you didn't say the highs, but I think the high would probably be actually interviewing her, because I would say that I got just about all the information that I needed from interviewing her. And then yeah, the most helpful was the essay. I mean, the most helpful was the interview. And I would say the research affected my understanding because of how she described it, like how she described a Lincoln Lion identity. Like the way she described it was that because of the time she lived in, with segregation and stuff like that, it was like having been going to Lincoln, it helped her with her master's program, and it helped her with every aspect of her life, because she said it gave her the tools she needed and the confidence that she needed to know that she could do the things that she wanted to do. She said, because when she was in the situation when it was only 20 of them going to the predominantly white school, it was kind of like a hard time. So she didn't really get much encouragement and stuff like that. It wasn't like a support system, but when she came to Lincoln, she got that. And then that helped her go on and get her master's, and it prepared her for what she was going to face in the real world. Like it gave her the confidence she needed to move on with her life, basically.
What class did she graduate from? What class was she in?
Oh, let me see.
76, right?
Yeah, 76 with a English and Fine Arts, a degree in English and Fine Arts.
Did you know her, Kathy?
She's muted. Kathy,
I
she
think
can't
she
see.
What was that?
No, I asked you, did you know this person that Deja's talking about?
Adrienne Roan.
No,
know her as a student.
no,
Mhm.
no, I didn't.
Deja, you mentioned that you thought the most outstanding thing about her was her growing up in the segregated South.
Mm-hmm.
What about
Hi, I'm here. I just muted.
what about her achievements post Lincoln?
You said, what about her achievements?
Yes, post Lincoln. Like, what have you noticed about her career and the trajectory of her career as she got that confidence that you described so well? That's a beautiful statement to make about someone and how the Lincoln experience affected them. I think you should really make sure to capture that, because anybody reading that, what you just said was absolutely beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I really feel the gift that Lincoln can give to a person based on what you just said.
Oh, thank you, Professor Button, truly.
Really, I can't wait to see it in words. Yeah.
No, I did put it in there. I did put it in the essay, because that was what she said. She said she felt like it prepared her for what she was going to have to deal with. It gave her the confidence she needed to deal with like her master's program and stuff like that.
Do you know, the last question I had in that email is this? Is that the experience that you've had? Do you feel that that's something that every Lincoln student should be able to access, that kind of confidence? I mean, because I think that's why, if you put that in words and let's say a student were to read it, they should ask themselves, have I got that? How will this can do this for me too? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and I feel like I've experienced that to some degree. I do think that in experiencing it, you'll only really experience it if you're active. Like if you actually, are involved in things and like meet people and things of that nature, not just students, but like faculty and stuff like that. Or even if like you're struggling and you seek help, like you'll only really experience it if you actually network and meet people. Because if you're just to yourself, you won't really experience it. Like Adrienne Rowan, she told me, because she was from Virginia, she didn't go home. She didn't have the luxury of going home. So she had to make the best out of her experience. So everything, that's why she was so heavily involved on campus, because she had to make the most out of everything.
So that's a point that you make, her heavy involvement on campus. That's an important part of your biographical essay.
No, it's in there.
No, what I'm saying, it is in there. So it sounds like that's one of your main points, that she was very engaged when she was at Lincoln, and you support that with the details, right?
Yep. And she was engaged during her tenure at Lincoln and even after Lincoln. And she said that her and her husband are both Lincoln alum, and in any capacity they are asked to serve on Lincoln, they try to serve.
Deja, what are some of the organizations that she was a member of when she was on Lincoln's campus? Mention any of those, like sororities or?
Yeah, so she said she was an AKA. She said she was a part of, let me see here. She was an RA. She was a part of the cheerleading all 4 years. I think it was some society she was a part of, like a debate society.
In Tolson?
Yeah, Tolson.
Did you happen to identify any of the persons that worked with her or knew her on campus? Do you have any quotes by other people that capture this spirit of involvement or reinforce what you're saying? Because that's always a nice touch.
So no, because when I interviewed her and I put everything together, it came out to be 6 pages. And at that point, I looked and I said, this is very much well over the requirement. So that's why I didn't do that.
Deja, I did give you the name of William King.
Mm-hmm.
He served as her vice chair. And I gave you his contact information. He would be a great person to get a quote.
Okay.
Yeah.
How did you start your essay, Deja? What's your first sentence, just out of curiosity? Do you have it there in front of you?
Mm-hmm. Adrienne Rowan grew up in the 60s in segregated South Richmond, Virginia, which at the time was considered the capital of the Confederacy.
Well, what I'm thinking is that you've put if I were to extract from everything that you've said, a key feature of her was her active engagement in all of life at every stage of her career. Is that correct? Did I hear you correctly?
What'd you say?
I said, what I'm hearing from you and everything you've said is that she was an engaged person at every stage of her life, especially as a Lincoln Lion.
Yeah, but I started out like that so I could build upon like her childhood and then go to her high school and then go to college and then the master's program and then life after that.
Yeah, sounds great. I'm looking forward to reading it. Sounds really good, and that you bring it together at the end, probably about her ongoing willingness to be a part of to invest in the Lincoln experience, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's terrific.
Can you elaborate on her contributions to Lincoln after graduation?
So she served on the board in like different capacities. I was going to
say, answer that question when we were struggling with that one. Do you have the time period?
Okay, let me see.
About I won't, go ahead, it's about 2000, 2002, whatever, somewhere in there. But go ahead, Sister Outerbridge, I don't want to steal your thunder.
Okay, that's good.
Let me see.
You've been a great team, you two.
Mhm.
Yeah, about 2004, she rotated off the board. She became a board member in 1996. So she served on the board from 1996 to 2004. And she was board chair from 2001 to 2004. And she said she was also the chairman of the presidential search committee that ended with Ivory Nelson becoming the president of the university.
That's
Oh,
right.
wow.
And
And she served
yeah,
2 4-year terms on the board.
right. And there's another piece, she and her husband, big donors, right? They gave a lot of money.
Mhm.
Another piece you can add to that, great contributors monetarily to Lincoln University, ongoing.
Also, her
And then-
professional career
Yeah,
as a scientist.
yeah. And didn't one of their children went to Lincoln, or no? I'm trying to remember.
So her daughter went to Lincoln and her
See?
nephew went to Lincoln.
I knew that.
Okay, I didn't know that. Mhm.
Sounds like we've got a whole lot of information there. Sounds wonderful.
Yeah.
And there's a connection between what Maya reported and what you're reporting on your subjects. They both went to predominantly white high schools during turbulent times, and found Lincoln to be some form of I don't know, salvation or a safe place or a place to thrive.
Point.
So that's, I mean, I don't know what we will extract from that, if there's some general observation to be made, because I know of other people who either started at predominantly white institutions and then transferred to Lincoln, or had some other experiences which Lincoln became a very rewarding relief from those other places.
Mm.
So.
I think that this volume that we're creating will be a great asset in recruitment. Anybody reading these stories would want to come to Lincoln, I think. All right, who's next? Thank you, Deja.
No problem.
Kaya?
Yeah, I can go.
Okay, great.
Can you guys see me okay? I'm on my phone. I've never really used my phone before.
Yeah.
Fine.
Okay.
Fine.
So my second essay I did Reverend William Drew Robeson, which is Paul Robeson's father. And I just jotted down a few notes to Dr. Button's questions. So what was most outstanding about Rev Robeson for me was, first, the resilience he had in being a former slave and going on to get his education from Lincoln University. That's number one, which is like amazing in its own right. But another thing that really like stood out to me was how he was so unapologetic in his beliefs in his time at Princeton and being a pastor there and pastoring a church. And he helped because he held differing beliefs from the white elite about social justice, racial justice. You know, he openly spoke out against that. And that's not really something they wanted to hear at all. That was not a concern for them. And, you know, their whole thing was, you know, we like you, don't like concern yourself with those, you know, crazy opinions, which is not really crazy because, you know, he was a Black man. He should concern himself with that, especially in his position as a pastor. You should speak out at injustice and any chance you can get. So that was definitely what I found most outstanding about him. And the most challenging part of research, I put 2 points, which is being concise when there is a lot of information, which I didn't really find the case for this essay, but the prior one that I did on Gil Scott, because there was a lot and it's like, I want to put all of this in there, but you know, we're not writing a book about him. So definitely being concise when there's a lot of information, and another point, the kind of the antithesis of that is finding information on those who weren't mainstream alumni, because, you know, we have Thurgood Marshall, Kwame Nkrumah, all of those big alumni, all those big names. There's thousands and thousands of people on them. So definitely finding information. And I think that, well, I don't want to speak for everyone, but I know that we all struggled a bit with finding information on our respective people. My most helpful resources, I actually found, I don't have the title right now, but Paul Robeson wrote an autobiography like of his life. And he starts with talking about his parents and his parents' beginnings. And that's where I found the bulk of my information on Rev Robeson, which was literally amazing. And Gil Scott also had one as well that I found like in the middle of my research process for him. But with Paul Robeson writing that, thank you, Paul, really, because he really goes into detail about his father, and that's how you really learn his life. What I will say, which I forgot, I guess I'll add to the prior question to this, is his time at Lincoln. I didn't find too much, but since this is just the draft, even Dr. Johnson said, you know, go back and see if you can find a little bit more about his time at Lincoln as a student and his contributions to Lincoln as an alumnus. So definitely those are my 2 weak points that I'm going to work on getting done for you guys this week. And my research affecting my understanding of the Lincoln Lion identity. So I wrote 3 things for that. So definitely when you think of the Lincoln Lion, you're going to think of a change maker. And that's, I feel, with anyone, even if like Mia's, I'm sorry, I'm not remembering Mia's, the name of her person, but she was a change maker within her own right. And a lot of people think, well, you know, she was just a teacher. But you can see, like we saw from what Mia said, her being a teacher, inspiring Sterling's father, Guy Sims, and, you know, him doing the work that he's doing. And, you know, that's amazing. That's change right there. Even something so small that you think is really insignificant. Definitely change makers. Lincoln
Totally
Lions,
agree.
yeah. Lincoln Lions are not fans of the status quo at all. And that's a good thing. Because, you know, at any chance, this goes back to being a change maker, like we get it done. And the last point, the Lincoln Lion identity, basically stand and be confident in who you are. It may not be popular, but it's what's going to separate you and really like elevate you at the end of the day. Because we see that with most of our alumni. We see that with Thurgood Marshall. He stood in what he believed in. Look at where that got us, and look at where that got the country. Kwame Nkrumah, all of these great places. I know those are the 2 I keep referencing. I know we have a bunch more, but that's really what is at the core of that for me. And like Deja was saying earlier, like her confidence. Adrienne Roane is confident in who she is and her abilities because of her time at Lincoln. And I definitely echo that sentiment, because before I came to Lincoln, I'm still very introverted, but I was super shy, didn't talk to anyone, stayed to myself. Being at Lincoln has definitely forced me to get out of my shell. I've done a lot of things that I never thought that I would do. And that's because I'm a Lincoln Lion. I'm not going to take any credit. That's all Lincoln, literally. And I'm just so blessed to have been given the opportunity to be a Lincoln Lion, graduating debt-free, thank God. But yeah, that's really what I took from my research and learning more about our alumni. That's really it.
Well said. Well said.
I'm glad that we have this on recording, because those are beautiful words.
Thank
I just
you.
wanted to say amen. I felt that in my spirit.
Oh, good. Yeah. Well, oh, geez. I'm glad we're not finished with this class yet, because you guys have really become a team. You're a team of researchers. It's quite marvelous. Any questions? Yeah. For
An observation. Kaya in her essay did a very good job of indicating that that Reverend Robeson contributed to Paul Robeson's development. He's not being studied just because he's the father of Paul Robeson, as she explained. He was a very staunch advocate for Black rights from the very beginning, and lost a job over it, relocated, but still, stuck to his guns. But then his Lincoln training, his Lincoln background, actually helped Paul become who he was. And for those of us who are of a certain generation, we know Paul Robeson, and we know that he was kind of like the Muhammad Ali of his day. He was known throughout the world. He was famous. Wherever he went, people admired him, adored him. This is like what the so-called proletariat. They're the working class, ordinary people would recognize him all around the world. He went places as a singer, as an activist for human rights and the like. And then he sang in a lot of different languages. And so, but his father, and Kai, I think you mentioned this in your paper, would tutor him and would encourage him to learn a whole lot. And I think, and his father got one of his degrees in theology. And so at that time, there would have been a heavy emphasis on the classical languages, Latin and Greek. And I suspect that's what enabled Paul Robeson to master so many languages in his performances. He could sing in Russian and Greek and Hebrew and the like. And people all over the world loved him for that. But I think that foundation came from his father and his father's education at Lincoln. I don't know that for sure, but I suspect that Lincoln influence was passed on and gave the world this gift called Paul Robeson.
Wow. Is there any way, I don't know about Paul Robeson's education. It would be an interesting speculation to consider. I don't know what, that's obvious if you spend time as a parent, mentoring a student, but it would also be interesting to track that in the life of Paul Robeson. See, did he study the classics on his own, or was that exclusively? Because a lot of, so many writers, especially in the 19th century, they didn't have formal education. They learned everything at their father's knee or their library. That's a really, really great point.
And I wanted to say, when you talked about the whole lion piece, it brought me back to this the seminar I had to go to last week on Zoom with Dr. Powell. And she talked about how lions, like nobody knows what a lion is going to do. And they wait and see, what move the lion is going to make. But they know that the move that a lion is going to make is going to be something big. And I just think that stands for just about every person who graduates Lincoln. Like nobody knows what the next Lincoln grad is going to do, but they know that whatever they're going to do is going to be big because they're a lion.
Very nice. I want to remind you all that illustrations are important. If you run across a really interesting picture or document or a handwritten note or letter, these objects of material culture are things that we could include in your essay if you find something. So don't hesitate to think about that.
Deja, can I follow up on something you said? You said it was Dr. Powell. Is he or she on the Lincoln faculty?
It was a she, but no, she's actually, I think she attended Lincoln, and now she is vice president of student affairs at Jackson State.
Okay. I don't know if you have any information about her, but I'd like to contact her because one of the things we wanted to include was something about lions and how lion was chosen as the Lincoln symbol.
They had a I think over the past few weeks they had a You Are a Lion series, and she was one of the speakers.
Oh,
Dr. Susan E. Powell.
Susan Powell. Okay, great.
Oh, who's the king of the jungle?
I'm so curious to know now, like what caused like the Lincoln symbol to be a lion? Like how did that come about?
Well, I have heard stories, but I'd like to, it really should be researched because I'm absolutely certain there is more information about it. But I understood from my father when he was at Lincoln back in the 20s that it came from Haile Selassie, the Lion of Judah. It was philosophical, it was religious. And I'm going to try to find more. But that was part of the story.
And another part that I have heard is the relationship between Princeton and Lincoln. One the tiger and one the lion. That's another one that's circulating as well. Their closeness, even the colors. The navy is obviously brighter than the black, but the orange is very clear in both instances.
Yeah.
So I don't know for sure. Only the lion knows.
Could it include the epic from ancient Mali, the Sanjara, the Lion King? Or is that too far of a stretch?
You could. I
Getting,
do think it's biblical
it is biblical.
because of Lincoln's founding as a
Absolutely.
school for ministers and missionaries. And of course, in the Bible, the Lion of Judah is Jesus.
Yes.
So it's an incredible symbol.
It is. It is.
And then there's the alliteration of Lincoln and lion too.
Right?
That it kind of goes together.
It does.
I just looked up Paul Robeson, and on Wikipedia, he actually got, this is so interesting. In 1915, he won an academic scholarship to Rutgers College,
Yes.
where he was twice named a consensus All-American in football. I mean, this is 1915, so
Yes.
that's fascinating. And he studied later, it says, at the London's SOAS, the School of Oriental and African Studies. He studied Swahili and I forget, something else. So yeah, that's quite fascinating. Anyway.
And he was mistreated terribly at Rutgers. He was not
Isn't
allowed.
that right?
Not allowed to use the same facilities as the football players, and man was an Olympian.
Yeah,
he might have been an Olympian.
He was a four sports letter person, varsity athlete, and maybe 4 different sports. Went on to Columbia Law School. Was all American and several sports.
He couldn't even travel with the team because of segregation.
Yeah. And then you've got the McCarthy scare and all that, and he's a communist.
Right. Communist, right.
Oh yeah, there's a whole lot out there about him. So much out there, and it's really sad that he had to deal with all the things that he did have to deal with as an outstanding athlete and scholar. And so I'll just leave it there. And also, he was quite a singer, right?
Yes.
Very much so. He got some powerful albums.
That was his main.
Yeah. Yeah, just an outstanding,
right.
That beautiful voice. Old Man River and all that. Yes.
Yeah. The government confiscated his passport to keep him from earning a living, forced him into exile in the United States, in Philly.
Wow.
And so so they basically didn't want him to be advocating for Black folks around the world. So you folks are right. There's such a rich history of his contributions, and again, I think a lot of that is due to his father.
There's a group now trying to preserve his house in Philadelphia, and if you come down either Chestnut or Walnut Street, there's a huge mural of him, and it's beautiful.
Kaya also mentioned that the father was unapologetic in his beliefs at Princeton. Did he work at Princeton? Was he a pastor in Princeton? What was his connection in Princeton?
He was a pastor of I believe it's the Witherspoon Presbyterian Street Church in Princeton, and he lived like in that community, in the Black Princeton community.
Oh, okay.
But didn't he also take classes at Princeton, theology classes or something? Was he part of that group?
I'm not 100% on that. I can definitely look deeper, but because I know he went to the Lincoln School of Theology, but I don't know if he for sure took classes at Princeton.
Okay.
And actually, I didn't think to tell you, we call him Pablo. He was one of the early mentors. He was a member of that church in Princeton.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow.
And of course, he was he's now, well, before he moved, lead singer there. Very much in the Robeson tradition.
His wife worked at Princeton.
Correct.
Yeah, because Pablo's from New York.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Okay, well, we need to go on to Taylor. We've been saving, they're all the best.
That's for the last one.
Oh, they're all the best.
They're all the best, right?
Okay, Taylor, you're on.
Okay, so
Let's see your lovely face here. With your
yes.
Mhm.
Okay. Can you guys see me?
Yes.
Oh, beautiful.
Mhm.
So my second Lincoln alum that I've done my biographical essay on was Dr. Mary Styles Harris, class of 71. And I'll just refer back to the questions in the email. So what was most outstanding about Mary Styles Harris was how she never stopped learning and being educated. She has a couple degrees. She continued to stay focused, and her obstacles became another area of her success. She went to Miami-Jackson High School. Then after high school, later went to Lincoln University to pursue a career. Well, her major was biology at Lincoln. Then she had the option to go to medical school at the University of Miami, but she decided not to go. And I'm in the STEM field. Well, I would like to go to dental school, but if I had the chance to go to dental school, I would go. So I was just wondering, like, why wouldn't she want to go to medical school? Like, she had a lot of opportunities. But she didn't go because her heart was in research. So she found her passion in research, and she enrolled at Cornell University to study molecular genetics, where then she later became a geneticist. So she got her doctorate degree, and she was a research associate, continuing her education further at Rutgers. So that's just a little glimpse about her education. The challenging part and me like getting research was basically trying to contact living family members, not just for her, but for my previous Lincoln alum, Dr. Hildreth Poindexter. What else can I say? And also just finding additional information from legitimate sources. Like, I know I'm supposed to be citing my sources, but not all sources are good sources. You know what I mean? So, one of the most helpful resources for both of my essays will have to be like my two mentors. They've helped me edit and just add additional, just give me feedback and everything. So I'm thankful for my two mentors. I'm lucky to have them. And, everybody could use like a second or third pair of eyes when looking through essays. So, and to the last question, just to piggyback off of Kaya and Deja, Mia, Like I must say that like Lincoln University has definitely helped contribute to so many lives and has helped many alumni in pursuing their passion. But it's just something about Lincoln that just, I don't, it's just something about, I can't like describe it, but I just feel like it's something about Lincoln and their community. I don't know if it's the teaching style or through like observation. It just, when you come out of Lincoln, like they just said, everybody knows that you're going to be great or destined for greatness. It's just plain and simple. But that's all to the questions. I do have some of my biographical essay. It is completed, but I just decided to make a few changes last minute. We're like pressed for time, but I'm not sure if I should read just a little glimpse of it or maybe just wait till next class or
Go ahead.
Would you like to share it with us?
or I
Taylor?
can share it at a later time because I know class is over at 6:15 and I do have to leave at 6:15. But
Okay, so I have a question for you, Taylor. Did you say
yeah,
you had a good interview with her? Did you interview her?
no, I didn't say that I interviewed her.
Is she interviewable? Is that
She is. However, I'm just not sure about like the time frame. Just given that this essay is due when the 7th, right? The 7th on Friday. I'm not sure.
well,
And like one thing I don't want to do is to give like a close, like I would like to have, like if I'm giving out, if I'm asking for like additional information, I just want like at least to give the person at least 2 weeks in advance.
Well, you don't have 2 weeks, so
Right. So
you
I just,
bypass that.
right.
And they would, she would understand. You're
Yeah.
understood. Yeah. A Lincoln person will understand.
Okay.
I think since it sounds like, you know, since you've done all this work on it, if you can, I think it would give you the fullest sense of who she is. And you would have a wonderful conversation with her based on all this work you've done. I would really encourage you to do that.
I would too, and actually would help you to get it. Mia did it on Zoom. So the good thing is it's recorded and available for posterity. So if you'd like to, you know, if you need help in arranging that, you know, let us know. Well, you may have
Okay.
your own Zoom account. You just need to be definitely use that medium or some other that's like it.
Now, the other question I have for Carol and for the others is, at what point do we share these? I think the students should share, I'm answering my own question, these essays with their subjects, because the subject is the person who will be able to, I think the subject should have a chance to comment on it. What do you think about that?
I think that's a great idea. I was also wondering if we can get copies for all of the mentors. And I think that all of the classmates should also get a copy so that we will see what everyone came up with, because we've been in this together. If
Yes.
that's doable, I would love to have that, but I agree as well that after vetting and editing, then it would be good to show those living alumni what they've come up with. I think that would be good, or their descendants. I mean, it may be Herculean or monumental to do, but I think it would be worth doing, honestly.
Absolutely. In fact, I haven't checked the, I will check the exam schedule, because ideally, well, we have to hear about the 4 other presentations, but you know, ideally we could have a mock-up by our final meeting, possibly, to put them all in one document. I think that would be a very good thing to aim for. The other thing I would think would be kind of neat is if we had a picture of everybody, because we're still in the process of thinking through how this final book is going to be put together, and I think it would be nice in some way to feature our students who've done such a great job, and maybe even have a word from them regarding how this has helped them to embrace fully the identity of a Lincoln Lioness in this case. So there's lots to consider. This is a project that really isn't completely finished until it's in print. And so, you know, as you find things, and I'm speaking to the students now, as you find things, you might run into new information, you might want to reconsider your what you've written. You always have a Sister Carol and myself to refer to. So you know, great writers rewrite their material a lot, and we are definitely in the category of becoming great writers. So revision is in order at any time. Does that make sense to all of you?
Good
Yeah.
good papers are not written, as I always say, they are rewritten.
That's right.
Good point.
Dr. Button, I was going to also comment about letting the subjects or the people being interviewed or studied or written about to see the work, because or their relatives, because there may be some additional information or some corrections or some revisions that need to be had. So that fits in well with, well, number one, let them see that we appreciate them.
Yes.
And secondly, it fits in with your comment about the timetable,
Yeah.
that even after we've gotten what we think is a final draft, once people see that, if there's some additional input that they would like to have,
Right.
then that's important to have for the sake of historical accuracy and completeness and the like.
So why don't we invite all of you guys to do exactly that? And we're talking right now, immediately. And the other thing is that since you've written about them, you have a relationship with these people, and they may find, as you said, Professor Johnson, you may find that they may want to contribute even in the next year or so, because we're still going to be working on this for at least a year, I would think. So should we encourage students? Can you think that's possible to share these essays that you've written with your subjects?
Yeah, I just have one question though on trying to get in contact with Dr. Stiles. What would you think would be the best?
I would write her an email and say that you're involved in a project that is documenting the history of distinguished alumni, and you have been assigned her. You've done a lot of research, but you'd like to fill in some, you'd like to complete your work by having a personal conversation with particular emphasis, and then list a few things you want to talk about. And just look at your essay, say, what do I want more? What do I want to hear her talk about? What do I want to hear her reflect upon? So I would write her an email and ask her for an interview.
Okay. And then another thing, how would I find the I don't know. Like, I don't have Facebook or anything. I know a lot of people are on Facebook, but I don't have a Facebook. I don't know.
Okay, so
email.
I have a feeling your mentors are going to help you.
Oh, without a doubt, yes. You know, these are just questions that's flowing off the top of my head. So just coming out.
I was trying to figure, do you know what year, who has Dr. Stiles? That was,
I do.
Okay.
Taylor.
Do you know what year she finished Cornell? My daughter-in-law finished Cornell. I'm trying to see if it might have been the same time or near.
Yeah, let me see.
I think it'd be absolutely terribly exciting to interview her.
Yeah.
Think of anything more exciting to cap off the work.
Is she working now or is she retired?
I think she's working. She's not retiring.
Because if she's working, I mean, I know Tamara had to, Tamara interviewed her person last Friday, and she contacted her through the university where she's working now. She looked up her email
Mhm.
and sent her an email, is what I recall. I think that's how she contacted her. So if you know where she's working, especially if it is a university, it should be easy to get an email that way. Is she a researcher at a university, or or she work for a private company, or?
I know she was a researcher. I'm not sure about currently
Uh-huh.
at a university. So that's something that I will have to look into.
Well, Taylor, you are a terrific researcher. You are turning into a detective, and I have no doubt that you'll be able to contact this woman and report to us even on Thursday how you've fared. Okay?
Okay.
So
Thank you.
we're rooting for you as all of your mentors. Very
Okay.
good. Okay, guys, that was terrific.
I just had a question. Will y'all have the notations back from our paper 2 or paper 1, at least paper 1 and paper 2, so that, because I hear you saying like, you want us to, still tweak the paper a little bit. So will we have like notations to look at so that we can tweak the paper?
Yes, the answer is yes.
Oh, I have a question also, Dr. Button.
Yes.
I think we were supposed to schedule a meeting to go over grades, but I haven't received my appointment date.
That's
And I did send an email.
You will. You will, Taylor.
Okay.
I'm getting to it. Not to worry. I will do.
And then when will we have that back? 'Cause I know you said like Thursday was supposed to have like the edit, like more stuff into it.
So how about tonight? I would get to them. It's been a very busy couple of weeks. But thank you for pushing on that, Deja. You do need feedback, and you've gotten a lot from your mentors. I will read them tonight and tomorrow. And before Thursday, for sure, you'll get them back. In fact, the sooner the better, because you do need that kind of feedback. You do need that. And don't forget also to put the interview in your works cited page. So I'm sorry if you feel like you needed it sooner, but it's time to get it back to you. So
Okay, and are you just doing it for
everybody,
like this paper or the first one too?
the first one as well.
Okay.
Yep. Mhm. Okay, I think we're good. Any
All right.
comments? Any other more comments?
Okay, so we'll see everybody on Thursday.
Okay, have a good night, everyone.
Thank you, everybody. That was terrific. Absolutely
You
terrific.
too.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Carol and
Bye.
Dr. Button, can you stay around for a minute?
Yes, of course.
Carol and Dr. Button,
Yes.
can you stay around
Hey.
for a hot minute?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I just want to ask you about one of my students. I'm not sure if she's completed the registration, and I did reach out to her a couple of times last week, and before she's been very responsive, but at this point she hasn't responded. So I don't know. And you mentioned that she had not registered.
Who were we talking about?
Anissa,
She dropped out.
she dropped out. Okay.
She dropped out.
I assume that was the case. Okay.
Thank you. Yeah, she dropped out.
But I'm concerned about her too, because she always got back when I would send her a text, and she has not. And I sent her about 4 texts. So I'm really concerned about her.
And I know she was relocating at some point.
Mm.
Okay.
I should
But-
say withdraw. She withdrew. I should say withdrew.
From the class or from the university?
No, from the class.
Okay. Okay. Well, I mean, with that, well, that's helpful because now I know not to press on that with her. But maybe I'll just ask her again how things are going and
That's,
whatever.
I'm sure she'll appreciate that.
yeah. And she's conscientious, and I was trying to talk her into not withdrawing, and that we would work with her as best we could,
I
but she
think-
never responded.
I think it was too much to do her work and not be in the class. That's just asking a lot.
It was.
Yeah. And at one point she had 2 jobs.
Yes.
And I don't know what her personal situation is, but she said she was relocating from somewhere to somewhere else and the like. So I guess all the changes and transitions
Yeah.
proved to be very challenging.
Yeah.
Along with, I think she's taking a full load. This would have been 18 credits for her. She had continued this class. So
Well, I don't know about you, but I think that class was absolutely lovely. It was very heartwarming what they've done, what they've achieved. So I'm looking forward to reading those essays and giving them more feedback.
very good. How many students are there total now in the class?
I think 8.
Is that the actual final count?
8. 8 is the
Okay.
final count, and they're
Okay.
registering now. I think I've meant to ask these kids that if they felt that they've profited from the course, they should pass on that information to their colleagues so that we have a group for the fall. Now, I wish I could have given more feedback on the writing along the way, so I really appreciate what all of the mentors have done on that. It's just overwhelming to do all these courses and give everybody feedback. So in that sense, I really appreciate this kind of scenario, in addition to the mentoring personal relationship that you offer to them. But I'll hunker down right now and just go for it.
That's one of the problems being an English teacher. We got all his papers to do. Oh.
Terrible. I mean, 3 World Lit classes, and I mean, I'm not going to sit here and apologize. I'm
Right.
just saying,
It comes down on you. Yeah.
it does, and but these kids are the ones that, to be honest with you, these are the ones that need the most, because the payback is great. The payback on some of these other courses is not as great because they don't pay as much attention and there's not as much at stake. But there's a great deal at stake in these essays. And so part of it is, kind of getting a feel for what we really want. And I think this is a showcase of student research as much as it is an entry in an alumni dictionaries, or whatever we're calling it, history. So, I mean, originally I thought we were going to have a sort of what's the word I want? A short listing of alumni bios, like bio sketches. But this is much more than that. This is student research.
Yes, it
So
is.
in that sense, I don't know if it deserves even, it depends how good the essays are. We'll wait and see. I'm not convinced that they're all going to be really exciting reading. I'm hoping that they will be beautiful works of art, but I'm not sure what's going to happen. So we'll see.
Yeah. It so much depends on the writing skills of the student. I mean, the difference between Kaya Mosley and Mia Joseph. I mean, Mia Joseph's, I would say her writing skills are at the level of a 5th grader. They're bad. And, what can I do? I'm trying, it's impossible to make her, a first-class writer.
Right.
And I tell her all the time, look, I write all the time and I'm not good, but I strive to be good. I read good writing, to learn it. But she knows nothing about footnotes. She knows nothing about citations. She says she's never had it. Her grammar is atrocious.
Oh my God.
Her punctuation is atrocious. And I'm going like, my God, where do we begin? It's bad. I mean, I love her enthusiasm, her drive, but the skills just aren't there.
What is her major? Do you know?
She's criminal justice. She wanted to go to law school, and I was going like, hey, no way. And I suggested, she would need the prep courses. She could. I shouldn't say there's no way, but she could not pass the written part. Not without a lot more training, and she can get that. She can be made a good writer. It takes time.
Yeah, it does take time.
She's a senior at this point?
Yes.
Okay.
And I don't even know how she made it to be a senior, given what I see. So I'm thinking, well, maybe the exams are multiple choice. I don't know.
Well, see, again, I'm glad I am not chairing a department because it would fall on the English department. To hear someone say they haven't had footnotes or citations, that's simply not, on paper, it's not true.
Right. 4 years at Lincoln, get out of here.
It's not true. They have it in more than one places. But I will also say that grammar is not taught, period, the end, which is why we have special courses in it. I mean, I'm going to be teaching linguistics in the fall and having a big grammar component. I taught a special course in grammar brush up, and all the adjuncts say we need to do this. It is not in the thinking of the contemporary teachers of rhetoric. It's just not this generation. We're old fashioned. I'm old fashioned.
Yeah.
I think this class needs it. I mean, if we could only spend maybe 15 minutes each class on a particular phase of grammar, it would help.
I think that's, I mean, given the time, I mean, since if we're doing this in fall, which I hope we are, that's something that can easily be planned in advance.
Right.
I can whip up stuff that at the last minute, but not when I'm doing, not in the middle of a 4 course.
Right.
But that's a great idea, and we really should. That's what this course offers. Is right. I think it's brilliant. As a matter of fact, I want to say this weekend I was with a bunch of women. They're all academics, and they heard about this course. They said, "That's brilliant. That's a brilliant conception." I want to hear all about it, and it is. To have the reinforcement of grown people in the field as mentors, and to add this writing component, it's fabulous. So I love the idea of it, and I think this has been a great dry run.
Dry run, right? Now we know what we're doing a little bit.
Wet run or cold run, or dark run, or whatever you want to call it. But it was a run. It was a run, and it was a wonderful run, thanks to you guys who have, been so faithful to give us wisdom and your support. So I just want to say that. Thank you very much. And the fact that the students recognize that too was wonderful.
Carol, you may want to edit part of this session.
Matter of fact, let me close off the recording part.
Okay.
Let me stop it.